Tipping fatigue in America is a real thing. We are even making fun of it in commercials now.
Great set, bro. Now take a look at this screen real quick. Okay.
So imagine just how many more times you're going to be asked to leave a tip if the federal government stopped taxing those tips. That's what Donald Trump and now Kamala Harris as well are proposing on the campaign trail.
No tax on tips. Do we like that?
And eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
I'm sure this has absolutely nothing to do with service industry heavy Nevada being a swing state. So what's the proposal? We don't know the details exactly. All they've said is they want to eliminate taxes on tipped income. I'm sure the actual law would be full of all sorts of carve-outs and loopholes, but since we don't have an actual proposal, we'll just go with the simplest version. All tipped income would pay no federal income or payroll taxes. There's one special piece of irony here, I have to say. Kamala Harris was the deciding vote in the Inflation Reduction Act, which specifically had part of it enhance the IRS's ability to track and tax tips. So there's that. Who would this benefit? Mostly service industry workers, although you can bet your ass all sorts of people would be trying to figure out how to change some of their income to tips if this happened. The best estimates say there are around 4.3 million people who work in predominantly tipped occupations, meaning they earn most of their money from tips. They make up less than 2.5% of the total U.S. workforce, so really, it's not that many people that this affects, especially when you take into account that a lot of tipped workers earn below levels where they pay many, if any, federal income taxes. Of course, everything costs money, so what would this cost? Obviously, eliminating a tax reduces federal income, and estimates put it at costing between $150 and $250 billion in lost revenue for the federal government over a 10-year period of time. It should be noted we are currently $34 trillion in debt and counting, just to put that out there. Trump is allegedly telling Republicans in Congress the cost could be offset with new tariffs, but tariffs are really just taxes on all consumers because tariffs raise the cost of goods overall, meaning we all pay more for everything we buy. I've explained it in another video about tariffs specifically if you really want to get into the wonky weeds. What would the upsides of this policy be? It would mostly be that Trump and Harris get to pander to service industry workers to get their votes in November. Seriously, though, some proponents do say it would help working class people who have been hardest hit by inflation over the last few years. I would argue that permanently changing the tax code for a specific constituency based on an inflationary period is bad tax policy, and there are other ways we could help out that demographic of workers in the U.S. As I always say, every policy has trade-offs and unintended consequences. So what would this one's be? We can't know every way that businesses and individuals would adjust to a tax policy like this, but the most obvious one would be that businesses will be incentivized to restructure how they pay their employees. So will sole proprietors in any sort of service industry. Remember, it's not just the workers that get taxed on tips. Employers do so in the form of payroll taxes, so they'll be incentivized to have customers pay tips directly to employees rather than through pricing for goods and services. Depending on state laws requiring minimum wages, you could see workers previously demanding higher minimum wages that don't account for weighing tips, reverse course and be okay with lower hourly pay if that means less of their money gets taxed overall. So think about a state like California, where there's a state law requiring a $20 minimum wage for fast food workers. Not taxing tips would give sit-down restaurant owners an immediate tax advantage. Would we get table service at McDonald's, perhaps? I cannot wait for the McWine menu. Most economists also believe that the best tax policies include a wider tax base at lower rates as opposed to carving out parts of the citizenry that don't have to pay taxes at all, potentially requiring raising taxes elsewhere to make up for the lost income. On the left, that might be taxing the rich. On the right, that might be the aforementioned tariffs. The truth is, this would require all sorts of planning for carve-outs and loopholes in an already very, very complicated tax code. A tax code I think we'd all benefit from being simplified, since its complexity is a commodity for people wealthy enough to be able to pay smart people to get around those carve-outs and loopholes. Trump seemed to basically word vomit this proposal at a rally last month. I'm not sure how much planning actually even went into it, and it got enough attention that Kamala Harris followed suit and is promising the same thing now, despite Democrats poo-pooing on it when it was Trump's idea. It's more likely than not just pandering to a part of the electorate they need to win this election in November, and nothing more. Maybe nothing will come of this later if either one of them get elected. I don't love the policy idea because I think there would be serious unintended consequences. There'd be rent seeking, and there'd be too many carve-outs in such a law that we could see people outside the intended tax base being able to take advantage of it in ways that the average tipped wage earner just can't. But one thing is for certain. You are going to see a lot more of this kind of screen everywhere if we stop taxing tips. For what it's worth, I'm only going to ask you to like and subscribe for more principled political content. So you're welcome.